Why don't we go ahead and get started? Thank you.
The district engineer called. He did get stuck behind the train, but he said he will be here shortly. We can go ahead and get started without him.
Thank you.
So we can go ahead and call to order at 9:33. We have proof of publications in your books on page 1 and 2. We have a full quorum, all board members present. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda?
I have an addition. There's no item for the budget for next year.
The budget was previously approved at a prior meeting. I didn't think that there was, I didn't know that there was still a conversation on wanting to bring that back.
We had to do a tentative and then an adoption.
298 doesn't have the same requirement of a proposed and a final. You can,
true?
you can just approve a standard budget. Now, this board in the past has sometimes had us bring one for discussion and then actually approve one at a later meeting. But this last one, was the one where we did an actual approval and approved a resolution to adopt the budget.
And that was at what meeting?
It was either, I think it was June. I'd have to go back. I don't remember if it was May or June, but I believe it was June.
Because it's not July.
Right. Yeah, I believe it must have been the June meeting.
Okay.
But yeah, we had
We have a budget.
yes, we do have a budget, and the rates were maintained. We had a discussion about possibly lowering it, uppering it. It was a good discussion. At the end of the day, yeah. Yep. Any other additions or deletions to the agenda? All right, hearing none, we'd move on to approval of the minutes of the July 13th, 2023 meeting.
On page 4, the quorum was established with Commissioner Harold Jenkins present.
Oh, yeah, no, that's all right.
So with that change, I move approval of the minutes.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? That motion carries as amended. All right. Moving on to old business. Update on conversation with FDOT and South Florida regarding the flooding caused by the Beeline Highway project. I'll remind the board at the last meeting, Mr. Higgins gave an update on a conversation he actually had with South Florida and FDOT, and it was requested by the board to actually put together a memo for them to review. That memo is in your books on page 10. With that said, I would turn it over to Mr. Higgins to let him answer if there's any additional information above and beyond the memo in your book, or if there's any questions from the board.
Well, the conclusion reached by DOT and the Water Management District 2 years ago was there's no problem. We don't know what caused it. And I keep coming back to the fact that something went wrong. If the trees are dying, something went wrong. The only thing that it's not written in the memo is during construction, they burned off Beeline Highway completely. And so that was 1 to 2 years of being blocked off. And I'm not an expert in, I'm not an arborist, but there is a chance that the area is restored to its natural state, and whatever's going to happen will happen. But the only thing left would be to hire an arborist to go out there and see, is there something that's still continuing to affect the natural vegetation? So I'm at the end of the engineering. It's got to switch to something, or just let Mother Nature do what's natural. That's all. happy to answer any questions. I mean, the district and DOT both feel they've done everything they can to research it to a point where they don't know.
Sounds like Mother Nature. So I think that we've pretty much covered this topic. You've done what you can, and it does sound like there's, nature taking its course, and habitat is just what it is. So if there's no issues about drainage or anything like that, then I think that we can put this conversation to bed.
I will tell you, I did learn that that is an outlet for Palmar underneath Beeline. I didn't know it was that extensive, but there's at least 6 crossings now, including the wildlife crossing that's full of water right now, and it allows water to go each way. All of those culverts allow water to go each way, so it's interconnected.
Anyone else have comments?
Did we originally have a complaint from a landowner about that? Is that how we arrived at this?
So
Have we ever heard from them since?
Right, so there was a landowner that came to a meeting, this was still when we were meeting regularly back in Jupiter. So it's been at least a year, maybe even 2 years now, that the landowner came and made a comment that shortly after the road project, where his property was, which was right next to where these trees are, he saw these trees dying, and he was concerned that it was something to do with the Beeline Highway project, and asked us to look into it. That guy, he maybe came to 2 meetings, maybe 3 meetings in a row, and then I've never seen him again before. So it's been years since he's been here.
Any other questions? Okay, I think we can move on.
All right, item number 2, update on the hourly rate for inspector. So we started this conversation. This would be the inspector that would kind of replace what's currently being handled by Lumberjack, in the sense of they would be out there. The board was thinking 8 hours a week, basically inspecting the culverts and the canals to make sure everything's operating. If anything looks damaged, plugged, whatever, they would report back to the board, and we would figure out what needs to be done to fix it. They would also be in charge of coordinating with mowing contracts in the future, and making sure the mowing's being done according to spec. We've had a couple people over the last couple of meetings throw their hat in the ring. At this time, at one point I had like maybe 4 or 5 people who were interested. Most of them didn't want to go through the hassle of setting up their own LLC and getting insurance. They just thought we would kind of handle all that, and I informed them that that would not be the case. So we've left with these the 3 proposals that are in the book, for legitimate proposals. We have the Grassroots Corporation, Mr. Corey Beaton, and Mr. TJ Manziel. Those 3, they submitted their 3 kind of proposals there for you. I can tell you kind of just as a quick overview, I know one of the questions at the last meeting was, can you kind of just give us at the end of the day, kind of the nuts and bolts of the difference in their prices? The Grassroots Corporation, basically it would be $95 an hour for the majority of the actual field work. It would be $125 an hour for the primary, the owner to actually come to meetings and address the board on what's going on out there, or if there's ever a situation that demands the primary be out in the field as opposed to one of his regular superintendents, it would be $125 an hour. So 95 most of the time, 125 sometimes. Mr. Beaton, assuming that we maintain that 8-hour a week kind of standard going forward, his rate falls in at $55 an hour, with $65 an hour being if there's some kind of special situation where we need him to go out there that wouldn't be covered under normal activity. Mr. TJ Manziel, his rates were $65 an hour based on the normal 8-hour a week, and $65 an hour if we had to call for something special with, hour minimum. So, and I believe Corey was the same way. If we're going to call him for something special, it's a minimum of 2 or 3 hours, whatever it is. But so the main breakdown is For primary pricing, it would be Grassroots at 95, Corey at 55, TJ at 65, and then for specialty, it would be Grassroots at 125, Corey at 65, and TJ at 65. I can tell you from personal experience, the Grassroots Corporation, they do work for us at a neighboring community, Hope St. Lucie Conservancy District, so I know they're more than qualified. Corey Beaton probably knows as much about Palmar as almost anybody else up here. He's been owned land out there for a very long time. He's very familiar with the area. And TJ used to do a very similar job to what we're asking him to do now for many years for the district. So I wouldn't be uncomfortable with any of their experiences. So it really comes down to if the board has any specific questions or a preference as far as where you want to go with that.
I served on this board before for, I don't know, maybe 10 years, and most of the time, if not all the time, TJ was our manager and was very diligent, very conscientious, very reliable, very accountable. And so I would be happy to, once again, hire TJ Mansell.
Any other comments?
Yeah, I've had several conversations with Corey. I know TJ real well. I worked with him while he was out there. He's a good man. He will take care of us. Corey Beaton also has the same abilities, and Corey is out there because he's a large landowner outside Palmar. He's out there at least 2 times a week. He spends a lot of time out there, and if we look at his rates, if we're looking for cost, that Corey would probably be a better deal. I think they're both on the same level as having experience and know the area. So I think we should consider Corey also.
Any other comments?
Cost effective would be my choice. I would say Corey does fit that bill at present. Liabilities all seem to be taken care of by all of the 3, so I think they've satisfied our requirements for a reasonable contractor. So it really just comes down to what's most cost effective.
Any comments?
I just like to, I would be happy to make a motion to hire Mr. TJ Mansell for a supervisor.
Second.
Okay. I am actually comfortable with TJ myself. I know that he's done this before, so I would actually cast my vote for TJ. So I guess we'll take a vote since we've had discussion and we have a motion. So all those in favor for TJ say aye. Aye. All those in favor for Corey say aye.
Aye.
TJ wins 3-2.
3-2.
And Madam Chair, if we could ask staff to send a thank you card or letter to the other applicants for the proposal, I appreciate that. And also, I'd like to make a motion that we, or I guess reaffirm the motion I made at an earlier meeting, that we now fully execute the termination clause within the Be a Man Buy Land contract.
Second.
Any
All
discussion?
right. We have a motion, a second, to officially terminate contract with,
Be a Man Buy Land, or
I think it's Lumberjack is technically the maintenance contractor. So motion to fully terminate the contract with Lumberjack. We have a motion, a second. All those in favor?
aye.
All those opposed? That motion carries.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
No problem. All righty, we're on to new business.
All right, new business, discussion regarding new district attorney. So as a refresher, at the last meeting, the board executed the 60-day notice to terminate the existing district council firm, and we brought back a proposal, or I should say a recommendation from Martin County regarding a possible replacement. This is in your books on page 15. I can tell you that as far as the firm goes, this is a firm that we're familiar with. We work with them on a couple other districts that my company currently manages, not me personally, but our firm in the St. Lucie West Services District, the Tradition and Southern Grove districts, and Capron Trail. They serve as the district attorney for those. So we have experience with them. I believe the who is estimated to be the primary from that firm for this district would be Miss Ruth Holmes, which I would imagine most people here are familiar with. She was a staple at these meetings for several years while she was an attorney for Martin County. So I don't think there's any question as to her knowledge of the district and experience with matters here.
So, Madam Chair, at the last meeting, I had made the motion. I believe this district, that my fellow supervisors gave me the responsibility of looking and researching for another replacement law firm. I did look at some various firms with Martin County's Attorney's Office, but I did have the opportunity to meet and discuss with Mr. Glenn Torsivia the services he could offer. It was not made aware to me that Ms. Holmes was going to be the primary. Actually, I believe Ms. Garrett and Mr. Harrell, if I'm pronouncing their names right, are actually in the audience, and they're made themselves available to answer any questions my fellow supervisors would have. But I mean, I think you can look at their resumes as the firm in a whole, and they do have experience, and I think would make a good counsel for this district.
Any other comments from the board? No? Okay.
So it's I'd like to make the motion to hire the law firm of Torsivia, Donlan, Godot, and Rubin to be effective after the 60th day of the termination with our existing law firm. I don't know what day certain that is, but
It's middle of September. I forget the exact day, but it's
It's September 11th.
September 11th.
so
Oh,
be
I should
effective
remember
September 12th then.
Second.
Was that a second, Commissioner Hurd? Yes.
Yes.
Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, that motion carries. So effective September 12th. All right. And moving on, new business item number 2, consider televising district board meetings. This was asked to be brought to a future agenda at the prior meeting also. Actually, it might have been an email prior to the prior meeting, but after we had already kind of put our agenda together. There is a kind of a rate schedule in your books. Where did that go?
Well, Mr. McGilligan, I can help you out with that.
Yeah.
I had received an email from Mr. Tom Campenny as it relates to potentially broadcasting this meeting. I had asked Ms. Laura Beaupre, the Director of Communications for Martin County, and Mr. Stephen Nelson, who runs the Martin County TV, to put together a proposal. They're presenting you a two-tier program. Tier 1 basically is where the cameras, it's kind of sometimes hard to see, but for example, the camera that's in front of us, it's a one frame. There's no zoom in, there's no, it's just a very simple kind of webcam look. And then tier 2 is a little bit more fancier where you have some zooming in and more glamour shots, shall we say, for those who are actually speaking. And they have included their total cost per meeting. And I guess the discussion is, do we want to be on television for MCTV as well as on the a YouTube channel or not? So that's really what I wanted to bring forward to this board.
I think it's an excellent idea to have a record of these meetings. I don't think that we need to go to the live broadcasting recording. But if it's tier 1, is it available for rerun? Will it be on the county's website so that we can call up the meeting on demand? Go ahead, Steph.
So both Tier 1 and Tier 2 will be live streamed and on the channel. The main difference is Tier 1 is just the wide shot.
Okay.
Nobody's going to be at the council. We're just going to start the programming, let it run, and as soon as the meeting's over, end it.
And that does include, just as a side note, if there's like a presentation or there's something that's coming up, that wouldn't be included because that would mean you need someone in there to switch it and to change it.
Yeah. And Tier
So-
2 is handled more like we do for the county commissioners meeting, where we
Okay.
have cameras pointing to who's talking in the presentation, that goes full screen.
So that just reaffirms my preference that these meetings be recorded, and I think that I'd be satisfied with tier 1.
Quick question, as far as the for my benefit, as far as the actual housing of the recordings themselves, you guys are going to handle keeping the recordings, or once it's live, once it's off, it's gone?
No, it'll be stored on Granicus for our local. It'll also be on YouTube as well, so it'll be there for anybody in public
I'm
want.
just trying to think if there's anything, because there, with districts, there's a, record of, an office of record, and I believe we are currently the office of record, so I don't know if I have to have, Mary, I guess I defer to you. Do I, as the district manager in the office of record, do I have to maintain like a physical copy in my records, or is the fact that it's on a YouTube channel that anybody can go pull up, does that qualify? I'm just thinking like public records requests and stuff like that. Just want to make sure I'm covered. Since this is technically Palmar and not the county, it might need to be saved to our servers under the Palmar, all the records that we keep for Palmar. So would there be a way for me, I don't know, would I be able to just simply download it from the YouTube channel, or would I need to get a physical like thumb drive copy from you guys to store it on our server to do our proper backups and everything that we have to do?
Yeah, that would be the second part. It would be the easiest way to do it. That way you don't have to worry about other third-party software or anything to get it from YouTube. You just give us the thumb drive after the meeting, and we'll just.
Okay, all right, I just want to make sure that, okay.
Just so you know, there's a new statute dealing with that particular issues, but as to the particulars, I don't know, just because it's so new.
Right, yeah. If nothing else, as long as I have a copy that's backed up and saved, and we have a on-site backup and then a secondary off-site backup, and to make all the standards for everything, as long as I can throw that into our system in case anything ever happens with your recording, I've got the backup in case we get a public records request, so that'll work. That would really be the only reason that's usually the only reason I have to go back in the archives for anything, is someone makes public records requests, so. But it happens often enough where I would want to make sure I'm covered, so.
Okay.
Well, considering we haven't done this before, I think Tier 1 fits the bill. As you said, it's just a ability for people to see what's going on, and now we have it for posterity. Anyone else? Okay, so do we need a motion?
Yeah, we'd be looking for a motion to enter into an agreement for Tier 1 for the Tier 1 simple recording.
Okay,
Second.
we got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Michael, maybe I wasn't paying attention, but skipping back to old business, update on the district map.
Oh, did I skip one?
Yep.
I apologize.
Not on the agenda.
No.
Nope, not on the agenda.
Under old business. Item number 4.
You're okay. Are you looking at the right agenda?
Perhaps I'm not.
That might have been last
Last year.
Oh, are you looking at the minutes from the last one?
That's what I'm doing. I say I'm learning.
That's okay. That's all right.
It wouldn't be the first time that I printed one thing and brought a sheet for me that had something else, so.
I didn't know.
Did we resolve anything regards to the map from the last business, or was that?
So one of the things that we talked about at the last meeting was actually reviewing, because there's several maps currently on the district's website, and that's an agenda item later where we're going to review and see if some of those should be removed, some of them should be updated and replaced and what have you. So it's kind of part of that agenda item.
Very good.
But one item requested by the board was copies of the map, and I brought reduced copies plus one full size. I didn't know if you wanted the much more manageable small size or large, but these are available for the board.
Thank you.
But it's something that you can put in your file and refer to. What I tried to pick up was all of the terminologies and the locations of, like Gate 1 and legal positive outfall. That's all shown.
Okay, so actually, we're at discussion regarding reviewing
District
district
website.
website.
There you go. So, like we were just talking about, at the last meeting, there was pointed out, I believe we had a situation where under contacts, we had listed Commissioner Hurd as the board member, but then down here where we talked about, and it's still wrong, Commissioner Jenkins is an appointed representative. I thought that was corrected, and it looks like it has not been corrected. So I will go back and have the hosting site go in and correct that again. But as a result of that, and as a result of the conversation regarding maps, the board wanted to actually kind of just go through the website, kind of click through the different links and see if there's any things that they see that we need to change, remove, update, what have you. As far as this main page, it's just kind of a very, very brief overview. I don't know if you guys have had a chance to look over the website in the past yourselves, but if there's anything specific that you know off the bat that you want to look at, if not, we'll just go through kind of link by link. Again, this one has just basic information, documents, some of the creation documents, some of the statutory authorities and what have you. I don't think there's anything on this first page that is erroneous or that would need to come down. As far as financials go, this is where we upload all of our budgets and our audits. So basically, we don't keep every single budget going back to the beginning of, whenever this thing started back in however long it started, but we at least try to keep the last several years worth of budgets. Commissioner Hurd, something you might have been thinking of, in addition to our regular final budget, we are required to come back after the end of the fiscal year and do an amended budget, which is like a look-at budget. So we technically do approve 2 different budgets a year, but we don't have to do a proposed and final, just a regular final and then an amended. So that might be where you were thinking of from years past. But those are all stored here. These are all just simply links to the documents, so I don't think that there's anything on here that would be of any concern. Same thing with the audits. We usually just kind of keep the last 4 or 5, up there for anybody, and then as we add a new one, we drop off the oldest one. Documents is really where you would get the maps and everything else. So under the documents, we have the meeting schedule, which is what is approved at the beginning of the year. We approve the whole year as one item, the board does. We always have the ability to go in and cancel a meeting whenever we want, or if we need to re-advertise for a new date due to conflicts, whatever. But this is where we just store the originally approved annual meeting schedule. The maps and easements, I believe this is really where the meat of this conversation was coming. So a lot of these were added, I would say, in the last 4 or 5 years. Usually what would happen is a conversation would come up during a meeting. Someone would ask for something, somebody had a map, and everybody wanted to be able to get a copy of it, so the board would direct us to post it. So these are all things that the board has directed us to upload in the past. I'll go ahead and click on this first one, this Locks River Restoration acquisition. So this one, I don't recall the background on this particular map. Let's see if we can get it.
Tied into Locks River.
So I'm trying to, I don't know, was this a map that you created, or is this a map that we received from somebody else?
It's Locks River Restoration.
Doesn't need to be there.
Potential acquisition areas.
Oh, so this was something that was sent out by the district or by the Corps stating, I believe a landowner had received this and made us aware of it. I don't think we actually ever received, formally, Palmar ever received a copy of this, but we were asked to post it to the website because the landowner had received it and was wanted to make sure that anybody who didn't get a copy was able to get a copy. So this would be one of those items that it's totally up to the board. We can leave it up here, we can remove it. I don't know if any of this information has changed. I know that this was at least a couple of years ago. Is it all the same? So that would be at the board's discretion on your feelings on this particular map.
Well, if someone's looking for Palmar, there's really they're not going to understand what this tie-in is here.
I agree.
So I think this should be removed.
Okay.
It leads to confusion.
All right, so we will go ahead and, so Locks River map. Remove. All right, moving on to this one that was not really named. So, This is a Higgins map. I don't recall. So this is the culvert map.
Just a general comment on this one. In my experience wandering around, there are other culverts and drains that are not marked on here. Installed by landowners perhaps, or?
Yeah, these are the culverts that are in the canal, allowing flow in the canal. It does not look at any of the culverts that are from private lands draining into the canal. There's hundreds.
And those culverts were installed as part of a water control plan or just randomly placed? But,
Both.
randomly, okay.
Both.
Should we,
Wasn't most of those culverts put in to keep the berm stabilized until
Yeah.
they firmed up?
Yes.
I mean, they were temporary culverts at best guess, and then when they.
Yeah, they're
operations-
important. They typically connect to a wetland behind the berm and allow the wetland to overflow into the canal. I don't think any of them are intentionally draining a wetland, but that's just to keep waters managed.
there's only one of them that I could speak intelligently to, and that's at the end of a canal down by my little lot. And that one is placed in the lowest portion of that wetland area. I don't know how it flows into our canal, what the invert is, but looking at it in general, it rains and it drains, it rains and it drains. It's a high velocity zone versus a sheet flow zone. And I kind of wonder, with the district responsibility to maintaining flow and our general objective here, how those culverts come into play with our duty to either maintain and drain or reclaim land or keep it in a state as dictated through our last, oh my goodness, the last update by the state was House Bill for, somebody,
Don't ask me.
okay, well, give me a minute. House Bill
I'll answer your question.
857 basically said, hey, freeze. Don't drain anymore, don't develop anymore, So do any of those culverts accomplish more than we're supposed to?
Presently, none of those culverts are identified in the water control plan. There is a requirement in 298 for each district to update its water control facilities plan every 5 years, I believe.
I think it's 5, yeah.
Yeah, and which has not been done for Palmar in as long as I know. But that's the opportunity to identify new culverts, key critical culverts, removal of culverts, whatever the board decides.
And specifically for this map, I believe, because you had a chart down here.
That's-
Right, so I believe the origin of having this map updated was there was some discussion on basically just doing a check of Palmar's culverts to see, are there any that are caved in? Are there any that are completely blocked by vegetation? Is there any that need to be repaired or completely removed and replaced? So this was an item, again, several years ago, the board asked Mr. Higgins to do. After it was done, somebody requested that this be uploaded to the website because they wanted to be able to go back and look at it at a future date. I don't know if it's relevant to anything that we're doing currently. So it's, again, the board's discretion if you just want to leave it. It's not that any of the information on here is erroneous. It's just that this was for a specific purpose, and that's why there's this attachment down here. And this was done, what was the date on this? Back in 2020. So
That information is repeated on the updated aerial.
Yep.
So
And it works from an informational standpoint, and I don't have any objection to it as it sits. I do believe the future and the five-year plan here would dictate that we show all of those culverts and understand the impact to the district from them.
Wasn't that part of it? Didn't we establish the elevation of all those culverts so that the water would free flow and stay level in the Palmar?
That was the ones that were in the canals. Yeah, that wasn't these ones that are on lands going to the canal, right, yeah. So it's a little different, but, so, board's discretion, if you're comfortable, we'll leave it. If you want to take it down, we can take it down.
I'm comfortable with it.
That's fine.
Leave it, all right, so we'll leave that one. All right, special purpose survey. Who did this? This looks like an oldie.
That's tied into the culverts.
In
Says
what
it was
manner?
done in 19 for be a man, buy land.
Yeah, the culverts were surveyed by BMN.
So again, this must have been a conversation at a board meeting. If it was be a man, it was in, within the last 5 years. And the board requested that it be uploaded for future prosperity. So again, I don't believe there's anything necessarily erroneous on this map, but it's the board's discretion on whether they want to leave it up here for future,
And the difference between
Access.
this one and the one we just saw?
what would the main difference be between this one and that one?
Well, this has got the actual inverts called out, the culverts and the size, but it is not really that important for the general public. It's important from an engineering standpoint,
And then you have all of this information, right?
yes.
Do
Okay.
you agree with the elevations as stated, or have you even had a chance to really review them?
No, it was looked at, and especially looked at from standpoint of elevation differences upstream and downstream. Everything currently has been repaired and is flowing if Mother Nature wants it to flow.
So from a functional standpoint, you're happy with the information that's happy?
Yes.
Satisfied with the information that's presented? Okay.
I don't think, none of these elevations changed though, have they?
No.
Okay. Reason for that was we had some canals that had trapped water, that the culverts were higher. So when the water was level, some of those areas or canals on one side of the culvert would stay much lower than the other side because it didn't have the ability to fluctuate back and forth.
Any questions?
Nah. I'm okay with it remaining also. I don't think it provides much information to the average layperson, but I guess if you're an engineer or a surveyor or something, it's an invaluable tool.
All right. Moving on, 30 by 42. This one,
It's just an enhancement.
yeah, it looks like it's, again, similar information, but a little bit more zoomed in and detailed.
That particular map shows all of the canal easements throughout the district. Not roadway easements, just canal.
I can't see the top of the map, but doesn't that also include where the canals were proposed but never dug? Yes.
It's,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Correct?
well, you can tell it from, it's got an aerial background, and you can tell from the aerial if it's been dug,
Right.
moved down. It's kind of hard to see, but if you zoomed in on it, you'd see water versus,
I'm fine with this map.
Me too.
Fine.
We will leave that one. All right. easement map. This is,
Is this accurate?
This one drives me nuts personally, only
Yeah.
because people look at it and they find this to be an endorsement of,
Yeah.
where they can and can't go, what's a public road, et cetera. I don't personally believe it has any business being on the website. It's more of a tool for, somebody selling land than it is for us as a district to manage it.
From my perspective, I rely on that map to end up looking up the recorded documents, because that particular map calls out all of the OR book and page number for each one of those easements. It's pretty thorough, but
you have the information. If it wasn't on the website, you would still have the information.
I've got that map, I've got the book full of recorded easements.
So just removing it off the website wouldn't remove the information from our ability to get it. It would just not be sitting there on the website anymore. So is there a recommendation from the board on this one?
Well, it makes Kevin crazy, so I kind of like to
Thank you.
help him out if I can.
We don't even know who colored this map, do we?
No, we don't. We don't.
Well, if you look closely at all of the lines that crisscross, not the canal easements, but the lines that crisscross, those are access easements. And that probably leads to what you're talking about. Because every lot within Palmar was sold with an access easement adjoining it.
Yeah, intended roadways. And again, my concern is that people look at these little green lines, I guess they are, and say, oh, great, that's where I'm allowed to drive. And I don't think we need to imply or endorse that in any way. So my recommendation would be remove the map, keep it for informational purposes as you need.
Agreed.
Agreed.
Yeah. I was checking to see if it was possibly one of my daughters that colored it in, but this isn't a Higgins map, so it wouldn't have been my girls. Let's see. We are at another canal levy easements.
Oh, I have this book.
That's
Yeah,
the
it's-
book of easements.
Yeah, so this is 597 pages, so we're not going to go through it. But this is, oh, that's right. I believe there was a request. I don't remember if it was a public records request. I think it was stemmed from a public records request at some time in the past. Higgins had spoken of his big book of easements at some point, and someone then made a public records request to see the big book of easements and have a copy of the big book of easements. It was an expensive undertaking, and the person paid for it. I don't remember if it was one of the counties or if it was a landowner or somebody, but whoever it was that made the request, Higgins shipped off his book, had it all digitally scanned in, and they paid for it. They wanted it, they got it. Then the board at some point asked to go ahead and put this on the website just for others to be able to have the same ability to look through this big book of easements, because it is referred to sometimes in the meeting. So again, there's nothing not factual about it, but it's nearly 600 pages of legal recording stuff. So
It's factual.
it's all factual. It's nothing I'd ever want to freaking look through, but God bless anybody who does.
I don't know. Tell me why anyone would want to look through it.
Well, I'll give you, for instance, we're talking about who's got the right to drive on through Gate 1. I had to resort to this book to end up reading, with Mary's help, the actual easements to see if it allowed the public, which it turns out it does. And I think it's an error, but that's where it becomes more of a legal engineering question. And the answer was yes. People have access through Gate 1 on that levee.
Question on that, which is always a question.
Yes.
Are we talking public, or are we talking landowners?
Both.
As stated, it is the general public.
Yeah.
Yes. Which is going to bring up another question in a minute, but it's all right.
So regarding the canal and easement, the big book of easements, as we like to refer to it, I don't know that there's any maps anywhere in there.
Now, that's tied to that previous map that you just said
Remove, yes.
to remove. That previous map has got the OR book and page, and each one of these documents is sorted
By OR.
OR book and page. So for somebody that's really wanting to research it, could dig into those two documents and find.
It's that, and a trip down to the courthouse and look at the microfilm and you
Right.
trace
Same
your
thing.
steps
Same
out,
exact thing,
whether
yep.
it's
Same thing.
the district's maintenance easements or whether it was an intended roadway for the future, et cetera. It's all there.
It's all, this is all recorded. It's just, this was Mr. Higgins' copy of everything that he had so he didn't have to go down to the courthouse every time somebody asked a question.
If this was to be taken off, and we had a landowner that requests this information, would we be able to contact your office and just get a copy of this?
Right, yeah, so these are all PDFs that we've got stored, either my office or Bob's, Mr. Higgins' office has them all stored on our servers. They're all PDFs, so they all would, just because they're not on the website doesn't mean we're deleting them. We're just no longer actually uploading them to a website that's someone can click on.
I don't either.
Remove it.
Take it off.
Remove it.
Removing it from the website doesn't mean, for the general public, removing
Right.
it from the website doesn't mean we're removing it.
Yes.
No.
Period. It just means it's being removed from the website, but the information is still gettable.
Right, absolutely.
I don't think we can.
Yeah. All right, and then Palmar, this is just map?
That's an annotated map
That's fine.
that I've got copies of.
That's fine.
I just have a general comment about this, is that we specify on that map easement, et cetera. But it's a very vague and general term. Again, if somebody is going to be able to access this map, I think when they look at it, from our standpoint, what is that easement? And it's not just an easement, it is Palmar Water Control District's maintenance easement, to be specific. It's not just, an open easement necessarily, or we're not defining it as one necessarily, or leaving that to interpretation maybe.
So similar where on the other side you see PMWCD deed area, you'd like to see where it says easement, PMWCD easement.
There you go.
That'd be fine if you want to update that. Is that doable?
But, well, to do what you're asking for, it switches it to a GIS type map, which actually be a man by land that's generated. Because this was really an informational piece
Yep.
to allow the board to know if we start talking about the chimney, where's the chimney? The legal positive outfall, where is it? This map shows it. I don't have the recordation numbers or anything like that on here. It does refer to an easement versus right-of-way, which is distinctly different. But other than that, it's not. It's got all of the gates.
No, I think what we're saying is that where it says easement, just the wording, if you could add to that PMWCD easement.
Got you.
It doesn't mean redoing the whole map. It just means adding a line above where it says easement, PMWCD.
10-4.
All right, so we're gonna leave that one, and when Bob sends me a update of it, I can just replace it.
There's several that you didn't upload.
Right. So then the other discussion that we had at the last meeting, there was some conversations about some other maps that Mr. Higgins had that the board asked me to circulate to everybody. We had sent out an email that had links, because they were very large size files, where everybody was allowed to download. Those maps, the discussion was, do we want to also upload those to the website? And it was decided that we would wait till now to decide, are we comfortable with what we currently have? Do we want to also include the other maps that Mr. Higgins worked on?
That's this particular map, but there was a request at one meeting for all of the original water control plans to be uploaded. And I've sent those to Mike, but apparently have not been uploaded to the website. But I've got all of the water control plans and the amended water control plans. We can upload those.
You're talking about the whole documents, though, not just the maps in them.
Right.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I have received those whole documents.
Rotunda.
Going all the way back to Rotunda, right? Yeah, so we do have those documents. Again, it's board's discretion. If you want to go ahead and upload those, we can absolutely upload those. They would be under the same general area. I don't know if it would probably, I don't know if it would really go with facility reports, but I don't know if I'd add it to maps and easements or if I would just make another category for water control plan. It might just be its own standalone little header here, but absolutely, that's, again, board's discretion if you want to go ahead and upload those. They're usually, I don't know, 20, 30 pages long.
30 pages.
How many are there?
3?
There's probably four.
Yeah.
Since the
Going all the way
inception
back
of
to Rotunda, right.
You got Rotunda, then you've got Palmar, then you've got at least 2 amended Palmar.
Various years. I don't know what triggered the particular amendments, but at some point they had to make amendments after.
Well, the legal positive outfall triggered an amended water control plan. But that's only 5 pages.
And aren't we required to address that every so many years? To check that for an update?
The update is supposed to be in the facilities plan every 5 years.
Right. So, looks like the last one we have is going back to 2008, so it has been a while.
No, that's way.
Oh, no, I'm sorry, that's
Yeah, each year I prepare an
that's the annual, that's not the.
annual report.
I don't know why the 2008 one's there, not the most recent 2023 one, but I can get that updated also.
So where are we?
So right now, it's, do you want to upload all the water control plans?
No.
No? Okay. So do not
And
upload water control.
I think it might be useful or helpful to not list the subsection as maps and easements, but just maps.
Just maps, okay. So update.
One more question. So we're not taking any information away. We understand that. We're just taking it off of our here.
Right.
If a landowner has a request for some information and they are sent to your office, is this information available to them at no cost because it's public record?
So with public records request, as long as it's something that that's like already been created and I just have it simply as like a PDF or a document on my server, I can just email it to them at no cost. If they're asking for anything that requires any kind of printing, any kind of additional hours to put together, like I have to go digging through old boxes or something like that, because it's not something that's, within the last 15, 20 years that I already have scanned in. We're allowed to charge for time and we're allowed to charge for materials. But if it's something that I easily can just email them to them. The other thing is if it's something that's so large, like this easement book, if it's something that's so large that it's not possible to email, then typically what I would recommend and what I tell these people, and I've done it a million times before, is come to my office, bring me a thumb drive. I'll plug it in, I'll upload everything that you're asking for, and I'll give it back to you. Or send me a thumb drive in the mail, FedEx me a thumb drive, I'll do it, and then include a return envelope, and I'll send it back. Those are usually the two options as far as those type of public records requests.
Super. Sounds good.
Covered.
All right, so that's that. I think everything else on here was relatively okay. I don't remember if there was anything anybody else was looking through specifically where they saw an issue, other than, like I said, the contacts where it still has Mr. Jenkins listed in one section, Commissioner Hurd in a different section. This is kind of a general thing that we put on all of our websites, just for kind of, usually this is somebody gets their tax bill, hey, what the heck is this on my tax bill? We send them here to kind of hopefully answer their question first before we have to spend a lot of time with them. Resources.
Can we go back to FAQ, please?
Oh, sorry.
Instead of residents, it probably should say landowners. If I'm not mistaken, we don't,
Yeah,
we don't have.
right.
So we probably need to
Landowners.
make
Yeah, there
that
are
change.
no residents there.
Sorry, yeah, forced to habit with my other districts.
And then
Yeah,
also, I
landowners.
believe there was some discussion as to, if I remember correctly, about a year ago, we had discussion as to, I think it was 298, or there was some, I'll address, I think next month we can address that.
Right,
Go
I
look
think
back.
that was under, I think that was on this page right here, where we had what is a special district, because we have like a generic one that we use for our other like CDDs and stuff like that, and that's what we were using on this one, and you had pointed out that needed to be specific to water control, so we went and updated it and put in the 298 language and what have you, so.
I agree. That should not say residents, it should say land.
Landowners, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think that's all, that particular item that you had pointed out before, I believe that's all been updated here. Again, feel free to go back and look at it. If you see anything, just shoot me a CDD fax, yeah, so we can put that
Anywhere that you see the word residents, it should
Change.
say landowners.
under fax. So, right, Mr. Higgins just pointed out right there at the top, it still has our same header, the CDD fax header. It shouldn't be CDD, it should just be district fax.
Water Control District.
So I'll get that up, that changed. Resources are links, most of these links are to stuff outside of our purview. It's usually state type facilities. And again, this is just something that we put on all of our websites because somebody will ask a question. It's easier just to refer them to this. Accessibility, that just talks about the state of the, several years ago, there was a big push to make the websites more accessible, resulting in a lot of lawsuits. And so this kind of covers Palmar from those type of lawsuits. And then the contacts is where we kind of started. This is just where we list who the board members are, their information, and I've just got to update this part from Jenkins to Hurd. Other than that, everything on here, and obviously we'll be updating the district attorney information as a result of today's meeting, so.
Excuse me, also, we need to be changing the registered agent.
Right, yeah, we'll be doing all that to the new law firm, so.
General comment on the website, kind of a far-reaching statement, but when I look at a lot of other districts, what I do see is a mission statement or an objective, and I don't really see that for us. I don't know that it's necessary, but it does kind of look at where we are, the changes that are coming, new uses within the land, et cetera, and how we position ourselves to deal with those things. And, you know, might we consider development of a mission statement that's sort of a guidance for how we deal with changes, new
Yeah, I would say-
activities, et cetera?
I would say the only place where we have anything similar to that, and again, this is one of the things I'll be updating, on the annual engineers report, usually there was a, there's kind of like a statement.
Public acquisition of Palmar is about the closest thing we had to a mission statement.
Right, and that's old, that's not the current one. The current one is a little bit different than that, but that would be kind of our quote-unquote mission statement, the one that's on there now, which is one that the board changed, I believe, last year. They updated it last year, that statement. So,
2 years ago.
2 years ago, sorry.
I think concurrent with this 5-year plan update with all of those things that we should look at our mission statement. We should think about it. And again, that's probably a conversation for another day and one that requires a little bit of input and thought from everybody, so.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, so moving on to,
Well, we covered number 4. And I think number 5, until I know that there's some legal issues out there right now, I think we can postpone number 5 until those are resolved. So
right, and that was going to be a question for number 5. Do we want to leave this just on the agenda as an ongoing item, or do you just want me to wait until it's requested by the board to put it back on and remove it for now?
let's remove it for now.
Okay. All right. So then moving on to status reports. District Attorney, anything additional to update? Nothing. Mr. Engineer?
Yeah, on the revised map, I want to ask, does the board want reduced maps or full-sized?
I'll take a full size.
And I'll take a reduced one if you have a spare. I have a big one, but I'd like a reduced one too.
I've got the one correction or addition to do. Can it wait?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay,
Yeah, why don't you do those when you update the
Yeah.
easement notation?
okay, I'll do a mix of small and big.
Thank you.
That's it.
For me, I can let the board know that I've been in communications with Ms. Viator, so we've already started setting up the transfer of the documents. So she has several documents in her office that I'll be picking up. Like we said earlier in the meeting, the 60 days officially ends on September 11th. So about those times or shortly thereafter, I'll be going over there and picking up everything from her office. Other than that, I don't have anything particular. Field maintenance report. Mr. Gaza, you want to give us one last one?
More of a clarification question. So there was Be a Man Buy Land who funded the field maintenance at the tune of $1,000 a month to Palomar. Palomar then paid Lumberjack Land Maintenance $1,000 a month to maintain the works of the district. The funding agreement was canceled quite a while ago. Mr. Stokas, I'm directing this at you because you keep bringing this up. I just want to be clear. So Palomar has been paying Lumberjack Land Management $1,000 a month out of taxpayer funds to maintain the works of the district. And today, I believe, Mr. Stokas, you started the 60-day period to cancel the contract with Lumberjack Land Management. So Lumberjack Land Management, in 60 days, shall terminate maintaining the works of the district. Is that correct?
Yes, I believe that
Okay.
is.
So that seemed to come right after the hiring of a maintenance supervisor, which is somebody who's going out there to check on the maintenance contractor. So who's the maintenance contractor in 60 days?
So I believe at a prior board meeting, we had talked about, I think the recommendation was that January or February was when we were going to revisit actually having the maintenance contractor for the mowing. As far as things like block culverts or damaged culverts, that was going to be a as-needed type situation. So if the maintenance supervisor noticed a problem, he'd come back to either the engineer or the board, say, hey, I found that this thing is damaged or it's plugged or something, we need to get somebody out there to clear it, and then that would be more of a as-needed type situation.
Okay.
That was my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong.
So the board intends to cancel the existing maintenance contractor without having a new maintenance contractor lined up, and is intentionally creating a gap, thereby having no contractor on call if there's an issue out there, the grass is growing. I'm just I'm not sure maybe the whole board does understand what they're doing. That's my question.
There is a valid point if there were some emergency, an erosion, a flood or something like that. And, maybe the idea would be to have somebody on standby or compile a list of available contractors in Martin, Palm Beach County that are willing to provide such services.
Well, I think that, so the way that we handled it in the past was that would fall kind of under TJ's, since you hired TJ, it would fall kind of under his purview. There were a few things that he could handle kind of on his own with existing equipment he had, but for the majority, he had a group of people that he could kind of call on if there was, hey, we've got this situation out there, the board gave me authorization to go get somebody to do the work, come out and do the work. I'm assuming TJ still has those kind of contacts. So that's kind of how it worked in the past.
Next
It's
60 days.
It's 100% under control.
Yeah.
Next 60 days we're covered, and 60 days from now, TJ will have the resources he needs to
Right.
Sure.
It'll just be instead of him
pile
just-
of dirt in a hole or
Right.
whatever happens.
The difference was Zach was kind of had, based on the contract that Lumberjack had, Zach already had the kind of the ability to just kind of do what needed to be done. And it was, because there was a funding agreement, all that stuff, it just kind of was happening without having to have too much
It was
middleman involved.
it was all included at $12,000 a year.
Right. So this will be just now, like, if something happens, then TJ calls somebody, tells the board, tells Bob, then it gets handled on an individual basis.
Mr. McGilligan, I'm basing my question is that you're going to follow Florida procurement law, that the district is required to follow the procurement requirements under Florida state statutes. So
We are.
sure, and when we have emergency stuff, there's certain rules that will regard to that. And as TJ finds things, he'll bring it up to us, and we would also procure those, like we just procured the mowing contract. So
Correct. Yeah. We haven't had much situation because this district's never had anything of substantial cost that would fall under, required bidding and stuff like that. But yes, we follow all those procurement laws that we're required to, depending on what the situation is.
I have full faith confidence in the contractor we've just hired in TJ. So
So the maintenance contract, there is a new maintenance contractor? That contract's been signed?
The maintenance supervisor.
No, because we're talking about the mowing. TJ, are you mowing?
No. The mowing, the board said that they wanted to bring the mowing back in January because the current state of the mowing is such that they feel comfortable with it. So we're coming back to hiring a new mowing contract in January. I think January, February is when we were going to start that process again.
Right, so you're gonna restart the process of hiring a mowing contractor come January or February.
That's the current plan, correct?
I think more accurate is TJ will have a mowing contractor in
Place to do
in
the
place,
work in January.
ready to go.
February.
TJ will also have the services of our maintenance contractor in the next 60 days if he needs something done. We have a maintenance contractor that's still active for the next 60 days.
I think there's confusion. As far as my understanding under the mowing contract is we're going to readdress that item in January, and then this board will hire a mowing contractor based on your recommendation, Mr. Liu. And then as far as the question of whether we're going to have another maintenance contractor, my answer to the question is that we will handle that on a case-by-case basis in accordance with Florida procurement. We don't have a contract with someone yet as of this time. We also don't have an issue it of this time. And what I'm saying is that when our supervisor gets hired and he understands and these issues come up, he'll present us some bevy of option. I'm sure staff, you'll have some options up there for us, and we'll follow the Florida procurement rules to do that. So, but no, I guess to answer your question, Mr. Gaza, no, we don't have an on-call right now after 60 days, an on-call maintenance supervisor. But I don't think that limits us from doing that in the future. But I don't think we have to answer that question at this meeting at this exact hour.
Right.
All I got.
All right.
Financials.
Can I ask one question while we're doing this? Is how long is it going to take TJ to get his position up and running?
It's only all I gotta do is call my CPA, and I can get all my LLC all redone, that's all, it's only a couple days. I have to go find the insurance, I wasn't gonna do it till this.
Sure.
And as far as everything what's being questioned here, I took care of this place for 10 years with no help from nobody. I walked every bit of that place, and you know this, Lou. I've done everything out there. The place was beautiful. It was clean. The cuts were good. I brought the subcontractors in there for all the fixing of the works of the district. Me and Mr. Higgins rode around. We marked up the big map. I brought in a bidder and everything. I know what to do. I bring it to you all. You all make the decision. I don't make the decision. But I will have bids and you will have a choice, and I guarantee you will save money with me. Because that's the way it's always been. From the first time I got a mower in there, it was the cheapest mower, it was the best. And then once I got my main mower in there, I know everything's changed since the pandemic. It might be a little harder, but I know where to look. I'll go to a tractor supply place where they sell tractors. And I'll say, who does this kind of work? Who has 2 bat wings? Who has 2 bank mowers? I'm not gonna send somebody out there who's not prepared to do the job. And I'm gonna make sure they know that they're not gonna get paid unless I'm completely satisfied with the job. I was on just a regular, I wasn't paid hourly. I was out there during mowing 4 days a week, inspecting what they were doing, making sure if they didn't do something right, I would have them go back and do it. And nobody was paid one stinking dime till the job was done, and I was satisfied. And as being what I'm going back to do, that's what I plan on going back to do. I'm not gonna take nothing upon myself to do anything. Everything has to be approved by this board. I will bring it up to my supervisor, who you all want to be my supervisor, and it will be brought up into the book of what we need to talk about at the next meeting.
Okay, so with that being said, and we have confidence in you, that's not a question. My question is by the next meeting, we should have our supervisor hired, and he now will be the eyes on the property for us to bring it back to this board at the next board meeting, correct? Sounds
Yeah, I was
good.
about to say, do we want to set a date for you to officially start your weekly visits?
ASAP?
No, it's got to be once the insurance and everything is in.
Yeah,
Right.
Once I give you my
So you're thinking a couple
LLC,
weeks?
My insurance, insurance for being a supervisor, I had a hard time trying to find the insurance for that. Being as a subcontractor is for that. I'm gonna go back to the same people, but it's gonna be, I'll have that all taken care of in the next couple of weeks.
Right, so yeah,
If you wanna
by the
start
next
me
meeting,
on
I would
the
think.
first
Sure.
Next month, that's fine with me. I'm retired. And I tell you, man, I love it out there. I got pictures of everything, fawns, I love it out there. So it's not gonna be really, to me, I was out there all the time, at least 4 days a week anyways. And to me, this hourly, I was fine at just a flat rate, it's you all what decided you wanted to go an hourly rate. I'd be out there 4 times a week now and just making, what I put in is what I need. I put a lot of money out when I worked out there before. I had to change the whole front end in my truck. My radiator was always full of, I had to change the radiator, had to get a 4-wheeler just to get around the place. It cost me a lot of money. So my bid is what, a lot of wear and tear on a vehicle.
So I think what it sounds like is, as soon as you can get your documents, just send them over to me that following week after you send me everything. That'll be your official first week. And yes, Lou, it sounds like that can be before, right before, or right around the time of the next meeting. I believe our next meeting is currently scheduled for October 5th, although, assuming everybody's schedules and quorums and everything like that, obviously. But it sounds like that should be accomplished by then.
So it's reasonable to expect his first status report at the next meeting.
Right, assuming he's gotten all that put together at least
Okay, that's
a week before the meeting. That gives him a week to get out there and kind of give us what's going on.
sounds good. Thank you.
Yep. And TJ's got my email, phone number, and all that stuff, so you can get me that stuff whenever he's got it put together. All right, moving on to financial report. The financial report is in your books on page 42. Nothing special going on there. Same old, same old. Kind of the meat and the heart of it is there at the bottom. Currently, we're looking at a balance of just at $2 million. We don't have anything really major else for the current fiscal year. The fiscal year ends at the end of September. So the next big mowing expense won't be till next fiscal year. So I imagine we'll probably end the year not much behind, that $2 million. Moving on to, are there any questions? Sorry.
Yeah, just one brief question on the financial report, and maybe this is just, again, help me understand what we're doing here. The revenues that are generated, charged to our lot owners, et cetera, are they fairly evenly distributed? Is it, say 36, whatever, 90,000 lots, just to make it easy? Is it the total cost divided by 90,000, or do we look specifically at areas within our district and assess those by the benefit received?
No. So the way that this district is set up is you have a purely per acre rate. What happens is at the board meeting, we will say that in the budget itself, it'll say that these are our estimated expenses for next year. This is the number of acres currently in the district that are accessible. And then if you take the expenses divided by the number of acres, that comes up with your per acre rate. The county allows me to submit to them, the tax collector, a single piece of paper that says, what is the rate for Palmar? I give them the rate, and that goes to every land in Palmar, every property owner in Palmar.
Okay, and maybe this is just something that I need to learn, but units of development within the district, how does that apply? I mean, when I read this paragraph, it kind of basically says to me that there would be a most equitably provide for assessments according to the benefits based upon the plan's recommendations of the chief engineer. But that is specific to areas. And we have 2/3 of our district that's Sleepy Hollow, basically. It's maintained by South Florida Water Management District, et cetera. And 1/3 of our district that receives the primary benefit or the primary assignment of our revenues that are collected, mowing, et cetera.
So a unit of development is different. So the landowners within Palmar, if they so chose, could petition to the district to create their own unit of development. A specific unit of development would have defined boundaries. It would have its own plan. It would have all things that would have to be approved by the board. And then it could have a separate per acre rate than the rest of the district. Currently, there are no individually created units of development in Palmar. There was the beginning of a process. Years ago, Mr. Berman started the process to create his own unit of development on lands that he owned, along with a couple other people who wanted to be involved. They got through the initial phases, and then it just kind of went nowhere. But there currently are no. So everybody in Palmar pays the same because there's no separate unit of development. If a landowner wanted to, they could create one, but it has to come through the board.
Gotcha.
Or the vice versa would be South Florida Water Management District could come to the board and say, hey, we want to become our own unit so that we've got a different assessment.
So then they would basically put the maintenance cost on the remaining 1/3 of the district, so to speak.
Right now, it's evenly distributed.
And the way I can explain is we have a district that I'm the manager for called the Hope St. Lucie Conservancy District. That particular district, 298, similar to Palmar, but their landowners decided to create separate land units of development. So those units of development have their own charges. While they have some shared common charge that everybody pays, there's also individual charges specific to that unit based on that unit's specific need and that unit's individual water control plan. Palmar doesn't have anything like that. Everybody is under the same assessment, under the same water control plan. So unless somebody came to the board and asked to create a unit, everybody pays the same.
Gotcha. So whether it's $1 to mow the yard or $1 million to, I don't know, replenish a worn-out roadway, that is everybody.
Across the entire 22,000 acres, what have you, of 23,000 acres of Palomar, everybody pays the same.
Very good.
All right, so, moving on to invoices. The invoices are in your book, starting on page 43. I just need a motion to approve. Or if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Actually, I did. Yeah, some of them actually don't have, on the first page, it just says bill payment check, bill check, and there's no amounts on those.
Oh, yeah, it looks like she didn't do the sizing right. It cut off, the column with the actual amounts would have been just to the right of the memo, the name in the memos.
So is that what, so those, page 3?
Oh, that's what page 45 and 46 are, the other half of page 43 and 44.
All right, thank you.
Yep, she didn't size it right.
And also, I'm on page 45, and it's middle of the page, California, Florida Holdings. Can you tell me what those payments were for?
Those are, I believe that's the new advertising, so they have changed, the papers are changing the way that they're doing their advertising. Basically, they're moving to a self-service type situation where we have to go online and do a lot of uploading ourselves. And I believe that is, yeah, because you can see in the memo, reconvene landowners meeting, notice of landowners meeting. So that's all advertising costs for our required.
So it's $1,000 that we had to pay to re-notice?
Yeah, that's why we do one notice at the beginning of the year for the whole year, because to do it every single one individually is another hit. And these papers, they're surviving on these legal advertisings now. Every time we go to advertise, they charge us more and more and more every time. And they're doing less. They're making us prepare and upload things to their website so that they don't have to do any manipulation to it. And then they're charging us more to do it. So it's crazy.
The state statutes allow us not to,
Yes.
so we can just advertise on our website, if I'm not mistaken.
We've had the attorneys look into that. So according to some of the attorneys that we deal with, because we would love that, there is a question. If you read it, it sounds like we're allowed to advertise on our website if we advertise that we're advertising on our website. So we have yet to get clear direction on whether we can just throw something up on the website and that actually legally covers us. So for the time being, it's been the recommendation of other attorneys in other districts that we deal with to continue to do the advertising the way we have been until they're sure that we don't have to pay to advertise that our advertisements are on our website, because that would be ridiculous.
Okay.
Yeah.
Motion to approve.
We concur that would make our lives so much easier, but
Motion to approve.
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Landowner items. Are there any landowners that had anything specific? Seeing none. Any comments from the public for items that were not on the agenda? Seeing none. Any board member comments?
I have one. It's Mary and Betsy. Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
And I guess going back a little bit, talking about the 5-year update to our plan, do we budget that? Do we know what it's going to cost for you to go out there and look at what's going on from just some things, water quality perspective? I see we don't have one at present, but if some of the things that have been stated to occur, a couple thousand vehicles, 1,000 new owners, how do we look at that going forward? Do we need a traffic count to see how many cars are coming and going over maintenance easements, et cetera? So, I'd put that in your lap. And maybe it's not a specific answer today, but it's something to think about going forward.
No, I can give you a general response, and you're tying the facilities report into a survey. And it depends on how much survey that you really feel is necessary for satisfying statutory requirements. And so the short answer is it would cost anywhere between 3,000 to 10,000 to do a windshield survey. But if you want to start getting into a full survey, I mean, we're talking at least 50,000 to get everything surveyed. I'm grabbing a number, but I can ask a surveyor for a quote if the board feels it's appropriate to do so. Yeah, I'll do that because I think if you've left it on the agenda, I'll go ahead and ask a surveyor what it would cost and come back to the next meeting.
All right, and I kind of tie all that into, again, stuff I read that maybe I don't understand, and I'm certainly open to correction. Public utility and benefit, when we describe our purpose, public utility and benefit is basically our guiding light, so to speak, here. And I wonder, what is that for our district? I mean, again, we have 2/3 of the district that is managed by FWC and South Florida Water Management as recreation. So public utility and benefit for 2/3 of our section becomes keeping an environmental system intact and operational. It does not mean that we, drain every last drop of water. So, how does public utility and benefit tie back to our guiding light, our mission statement, et cetera, and our engineer support?
Well, first off, the publicly owned lands, by definition, is a public benefit to the public.
Yep.
So that's not to wipe them out just because they're publicly owned.
Or, yeah,
But if
dry
you-
them out or wet them out or whatever. Yeah, exactly.
But some of the questions you're raising, you gotta go to the origins of 298 districts. And 298 districts was fundamentally to reclaim lands to a useful purpose.
Yep.
And what does that mean? It means drain the lands so that we can inhabit it. That's the fundamentals,
That,
which has not occurred in Palomar and probably will never occur. So we just exist to manage what I'll call public and private lands for preservation.
public utility and benefit, again, in my thought, becomes vital to the state of Florida, particularly with the influx of people, water. I mean, that is the most important part of our district right now is water and recharge. I can't see any other public benefit or utility. So when we look forward at mission statement, how the district functions, drainage, everything, do we consider that? Who gives us our guidance in that respect? It's certainly not, unfortunately, it's not drain every last drop of water out of it and get it ready for the buildings. It is keep it in check, whatever.
Well, I'll pipe in, if you don't mind.
Oh, please.
From the county's perspective, from Palm Beach County's perspective, we have, and it is well known that we've been in the process of trying to acquire property to keep it in its natural state. And we are, always looking at water and water storage and water filtration. But for Palomar and our quest to have Palomar move up on the Florida Forever list, which is sort of a protection list for the state. We've been doing that, and I know that we've been actively trying to purchase land, and in our letters to people, and because they know that there are other folks trying to purchase land also. If we offer 15,000, they're offering 15,500. But our goal is to conserve that land, and we are letting people know that this is for conservation and for protection of the land and keep it environmental, let them know they're being environmental stewards also. So that's the goal of our county, and that's the goal of the property that we have in our county. So I don't know if that answers your question, but that is what we strive for.
It does, and with the district direction, do we also, I don't know, do we have an obligation or do we have just the notion that we should listen to Palm Beach County, Martin County, South Florida Water Management District and establish what that benefit is? Do we need input from those agencies in some way to officially look forward 5 years down the road at your plan and say, okay, how do we tie in what the engineer thinks we should do with what the majority of our landowners think we should do to accomplish this public benefit?
Well, if I'm not mistaken, sir, I don't think you have to divide into what governmental entity. I think our direction has to come from the landowners and the governmental land. If the government owns that land, so they're landowners.
That's correct.
So,
Yeah. So look to our landowners for some guidance and direction, open it up for, do we have a public comment session? How does that
do.
work going forward?
We always have a public.
it's K.
Okay.
I also would like to have a status report from the Martin County Sheriffs at each meeting. I'm still getting lots and lots of complaints about firearms and trespass and buildings and structures and drainage and stuff going on a daily basis in Palomar. So I need to find out if we're making progress, if the presence of the Martin County Sheriff's Department there is making a difference. So we need a status report. I'd love to have one today, and I'd love to have one at every meeting.
Agreed.
Agreed.
Cross that off
Morning.
my list.
So I guess, Commissioner, what we'll have to do is separate some issues from what the board has us do from the aspect of a detail based on the status from the sheriff's office, general patrol, criminal activity kind of thing. From the aspect of the detail, over the past month and a half or so during berry picking season, while me and Detective Slay have been out there, we probably, I think we're specific to the detail, maybe like 6 arrests unrelated to destruction of the works of the district or something like that. It's other crimes that we noticed while we were present, so we have to act. We have the duty to act then. So we made, I think it was 5 or 6 arrests in reference to that. People are getting it. I mean, we talk to a lot of people when we're there, and obviously they're behaving when they're in front of us. But based on what we're seeing, the activity, the speeds at which they're driving on canal bank easements or on Trail 1 or on other easements and other sections, the chimney, the middle section, they're getting it. They're slowing down. They reserve their, I don't want to say reckless, their off-road behavior for the private lands, which is, I think, is what the board was looking for. Let's get them away from the canal bank easements. Let's get them off of Trail 1. Let's get them on private lands if that's where they're going to ride. And that way we protect the works of the district. So from that aspect, I think we're doing great. From the aspect of the gunfire in the sheriff's office, we've addressed it over and over and over again. We cannot restrict what somebody does on their private land as far as shooting a gun that they can legally have. So when we receive those calls, we respond in as timely a manner as we can. Obviously, road patrol cannot get to many of these areas, so they rely on myself and Detective Slay to address those issues. When we get there, are they still shooting? Possibly. Many times they are not. Many times when we go out there on normal patrol, there are people shooting, so we address, hey, are we doing it in a safe manner? Make sure that they're doing it in a safe manner, and make sure that they can legally possess guns. That's the key here, is finding out whether they can legally possess guns and are they doing it in a safe manner. We have not found one single person that we have been able to charge with a crime in reference to shooting over the past 4 or 5 years that I've been dealing with the issues in Palmore. The statute's very specific as far as criminal statute on what we can pursue as a crime and where we can go with that. At this point, unless we find somebody shooting in a non-safe or without regard to public safety, we can't act from a criminal standpoint. So that's where we're kind of stuck between putting on different hats, so to speak. When we're out there working as a detail, we wear one hat. When we're on normal patrol, we wear a different hat. We can't ignore, whether it's detail or not, we can't ignore crimes. If we see crimes happening, we have to act on those crimes, whether we're being paid as a detail or whether we're part of normal patrol procedures. So we have to act, we just have to do it in a different manner. Does that clarify?
Helps.
It does, and my only comment here is that somebody getting a bullet hole in a camper or a wall is one thing. With TJ riding around the facility, a bullet hole in his truck or personal injury is a problem, and I don't know how. That's on you, TJ. That's your liability insurance. You know, is
I talk to people. I
Yeah.
tell them to respect each other. I say, look, you gotta live with these guys. You might not like this guy or that guy, but they're a landowner here because they all came to me. There wasn't nowhere near like it is now. This all happened after I left, but there was landowners out there. And there was landowners that used to hunt and shoot down those canal banks.
yeah.
And I would be on them. I would say I'm saying, look, there's people there. There's people. How do you know somebody could be parked in the bushes right next to that road and you're shooting down that road? You know, and I didn't say anything. But it was nothing like it is now. They're just apparently. I haven't been over there in Gate 1 there because I would never access it through Gate 1 because I wouldn't want to turn around and come out. I can't believe somebody ain't shot yet on Gate 1 because it's a mile one-way road. And I seen somebody going in there with a 30-foot trailer full of four-wheelers on a truck. And once they make that sharp turn, there ain't no backing out of there. Well, if there's another vehicle, if they don't want to try to get along, there's a problem.
Yeah.
So
So-
they can just sit up
a
there
whole
and just
other
start
issue.
bumping
Yeah.
trucks.
Exactly. Limited what we can do with gunshots, and I would only have one question for you regarding traffic. And I was out there 3 days ago. There's no shortage of traffic. There's not a stitch of grass left on the
Absolutely.
2 miles that I run. It's gone. We have no retainage for soils. So if we're expecting works of the district to function for erosion, forget it. That's done. What do we need to do to help you? What do you not have that you need that would help you enforce protection of the district? Is it a gate or is it a survey? What tools do you need?
So one of the problems that comes in is the difference between civil and criminal law. If you look at a canal bank, if a landowner owns to the center of the canal or across the canal, and that landowner is not a public entity such as South Florida Water Management, Palm Beach County, or Martin County, it's up to the landowner to restrict use on his property and whether somebody passes over his property or not. Entities such as South Florida Water Management, Martin County, Palm Beach County could definitely survey their lot, post their lot, and we can enforce trespassing on that lot. Without that, we can't enforce that trespassing. Trespassing is only a crime if the landowner has a complaint. And then we can go further, and if it's from the criminal law standpoint, if it's properly posted, properly surveyed, we can enforce all trespassing laws. There's no warning, their signs were here or are here, now you're arrested. And arrest means it could be a notice to appear or, taken to jail.
First warning trespass for that.
Or we can go at the direction of the landowner, we can go with, hey, let's warn them the first time and go from there. But every landowner has that right or that responsibility to protect their 1 acre, so to speak. And as far as protecting the works of the district, all we can do there is if somebody's like the swimming hole, somebody's down in the canal with a truck or side-by-side, they know that we're there, whether we're working the detail or not. If we see that, they're getting charged criminally. We're not going to allow them to rut up the roads any further. We're not going to allow them to mess with the culverts. I don't care whose culvert it is. If it's running into, there was discussion about private culverts. From the law enforcement side, I don't know whose culvert that is, but it's going into the works of the district, so therefore I have to assume that it's approved by the district. I'm going to protect that structure the same as I would one of the larger culverts in the canal.
Are works of the district considered public property relative to Florida statutes and protection?
So the works of the district, the way we can protect that is because you, as the board, have the right to, or have the obligation to maintain the drainage of or storage of the water. Anybody damaging that or harming that is subject to, although it's a misdemeanor in most cases,
Yeah,
or
first time.
would be subject to criminal prosecution based on vandalism of that works, of that project, of that canal bank. It'd be just like somebody doing something to C-23 canal. Some of the right-of-ways along C-23 are privately owned right-of-ways. But if somebody goes on that right-of-way and harms the actual canal and interferes with water flow, they can be charged criminally for the vandalism to that canal.
Yeah, so misuse, excessive wear, vegetation destroyed that leads to erosion, et cetera. That is essentially damage to public property and covered not by trespass, but by, I guess there's a statute relative to damaging public property, whether it's.
Well, I disagree with it being public property. The works are not necessarily public property. It's privately owned property with easement over. We're protecting the easement over. That's what it comes down to. The law enforcement is there and has the right to protect easement over. So we can protect the Palomar Water District Board only to the extent that somebody is doing damage to interfere with your job as a board.
Gotcha.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's sort of. It almost seems like it's fallen into a gray area.
It is very gray. It is very gray. So we have, from law enforcement standpoint, have to be very careful when we enter those gray areas.
Yeah.
Any other questions, Commissioner?
Thank you.
Thanks.
No problem.
Any other board member comments? When's our next meeting?
Right now, it's tentatively I believe, October 5th. Like I said, unless there's a quorum issue or the amended budget has to be done in either October or November. Technically, it could be September, but typically we like to wait till the year is ended. So we will definitely have one of those two meetings. I don't know if there's enough agenda to have both of those meetings, but right now, tentatively, the next meeting would be October 5th.
Okay.
But we'll send our customary email out to the board to see if anybody has any additional items. Usually you should get that about 2 weeks before the meeting.
October 5th is good. I'm actually not in town November 2nd. Would that be our next meeting?
The November meeting would be correct, the 2nd. So it'd be either October, so either at the October 5th or this November 2nd, we would need to do our amended budget.
Okay. Then put it on the October.
Put it on the October meeting? Okay.
And if we have nothing else,
Nope, we would be looking for a motion to adjourn at 11:17.
So moved.
Second.
Thanks, everybody.